What's going on, 49er faithful? Thank you for tuning in to the Tuesday edition of the program. I'm JD, and today was the first day officially of 49ers training camp, or at least it was reporting day down in Santa Clara for the veteran players and everyone else. And look, Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, they spoke to the media today, and I have some thoughts based on some of the things that they discussed. What we're going to do today, I'm going to go through some of the highlights, the key points that I want to pull out from what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch had to say to the 49ers media that were in attendance down there. I have some thoughts. I'm not going to go through every single question and answer. I'm not going to go through the entire thing, but I did go ahead and pull out some of the most, what I felt were the most important quotes and statements made during Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch's press conference today. It took a minute to actually get that information because the 49ers, when they were running their press conference live, the audio was muted. So a lot of people were a little bit angry about that. And it took a minute to get the actual sound, and then I got a hold of the transcript, and I have some thoughts. I have some thoughts on what the 49ers brain trust had to say down there in Santa Clara today. And we also have some other news that we're going to get into here at the top of the show that the 49ers have made as of late. And before we do all that, though, I want to say what's up to all the 49ers fans who are joining the show today. If you're here, whether it's your first time or your 100th time, don't be shy. Participate in the chat during the show. I do love to read your guys' questions and comments and react to them in real time. I'm very open to chat participation. I'm big on that stuff. And it's what I like to call the show within the show. So if you're here and you're hyped up that 49ers football is back and they will be stepping onto the practice field for the first time tomorrow, drop your ones in the chat. Let me see who's here. Let me say what's up to all of the 49er gang in the freaking building. So let's see who we got in the house so far. I see my guy, David Corona, checking in. What up, David? Thank you for tuning in as always. Papa J, what up to you, my man? Thank you for tuning in. David also says, let's go Niners. Can't wait for the season to start. Me neither. Me neither, man. Let me tell you. Let's see who else we got. Looks like that's it so far. That's fine, though. It's always a lot of the usual suspects. So shout out to you if you guys are here. I know I started a couple minutes earlier than I typically do, so I apologize for that. But I was so excited that I wanted to get the show going today here on Keeping the Faith. So let's go ahead and, you know what? My bad. Before we get into some of the news today, make sure you guys are subscribed. Make sure you hit the like button if you're here. And also make sure you have your notifications on so you are notified exactly when we go live and exactly when we drop new videos, such as we did last night after the live show last night. Those of you, some of you may not have seen it, but I went and posted a video last night regarding a potential leak that I found on the good old interwebs of the 49ers potential rivalry jersey logo. Now, I'm not going to show it here. You guys need to go check out the video. Go on the channel after we're done and check out the video that I posted last night. I came across something very interesting on social media that more than likely at least appears to be a logo leak for the 49ers upcoming rivalry jerseys. I know that Niner fans have been waiting on that news to drop, especially with almost every other team in the league, it feels like, dropping some sort of a new jersey or a new helmet lately. And so we're waiting on the 49ers. We're waiting on the NFL to release those rivalry uniforms. And I think I might have come across a potential leak. So go check out the channel. I have a video that I posted last night with a hat that features a new logo on it. And yes, I said new logo. So go check it out as soon as we're done. Don't do it now because, we're live and I'm talking to you guys and we're going to have a show. But Go check it out as soon as we are done here. And I think you guys will be definitely, at the very least, intrigued at what you see. So it was revealed today. Remember how we talked about on Monday that the 49ers brought in uh, a bunch of tryout street free agents at wide receiver on Monday? They brought in 6 free agent wide receivers. Well, it turns out they signed one of them. That would be Equanimous St. Brown, NFL veteran, going into his, 8th season in the NFL. He played for the Green Bay Packers and Chicago Bears previously. 6'5", 214 pounds, has primarily excelled as a blocking wide receiver during his time in the NFL. So I'm sure Kyle Shanahan is all over that. I'm sure his hands were all over that move. And Equanimous St. Brown, of course, the name does sound familiar because he is the brother of Amon-Ra St. Brown with the Detroit Lions. And he has not passed or surpassed 21 receptions in his NFL career to this point. But like I mentioned on Monday, if they were to sign anyone out of that tryout, it would be what I would consider a camp body. With Juwan Jennings' contract uncertainty, Ricky Pearsall's injury uncertainty, the fact that Brandon Ayuk is going to miss training camp or a good portion of it at the very least, they were going to bring in somebody. And instead of going the big time free agent market, instead of going after a Gabe Davis, a Keenan Allen, and Amari Cooper, they bring in a camp body tryout kind of guy because, as we will get into here, they don't expect for Ricky Pearsall's injury to last that long, linger that long, and they're hoping to get something done with Juwan Jennings sooner than later. We will get to that shortly, but they went the route of the street free agent camp body, and Equanimous St. Brown is a San Francisco 49ers. So I wanted to pass along that news. I'm sure a lot of you have already seen it, but I at least wanted to give my quick thoughts on that before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's live stream. David Corona says, do you think Brown will start? I don't think he'll be on the team come week 1. Like I mentioned, I think he's a camp body. I think he'll be here until the cut downs right before week 1, and then I think they'll let him go. Maybe he sticks on as a 6th wide receiver, but no, he's not. He's not going to sniff the starting lineup for the San Francisco 49ers in 2025. Let's see. Okay. All right. So, like I mentioned, Kyle Shanahan, general manager John Lynch, spoke to the media today, and I went through and took out what I consider to be the highlights of that conversation. And I want to go through those key points with you guys, give you my thoughts on what they had to say regarding certain topics. The first question posed to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch from the media, I believe this one came from Matt Mayoko. He asked, can you bring us up to date on the physically unable to perform list and the NFI guys, the non-football injury list guys? Which ones do you expect to be cleared for practice tomorrow? And specifically, Ricky Pearsall, what is his situation? John Lynch went on to say, I think we put those guys on PUP all for a reason. When they took their physicals, they weren't deemed ready on that specific day, and in some instances, they will be off relatively quickly. It's a ramp-up situation. We want to build them up. Abundance of caution, yada, yada, yada. And he says, in some of those instances, we anticipate it being short-term. Ricky Pearsall would be one of those guys. Kyle Shanahan did go on to say that they kind of expect Ricky to miss the first 3 practices, which would be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, before the off day on Saturday. Then they will reevaluate things and potentially get him out on the practice field on Sunday. They asked, is there any chance that Ricky practices tomorrow? And John Lynch says he likely won't. He will be off on a side field more than likely. Kyle Shanahan went on to say something kind of interesting. And he said, Ricky had a bad hamstring in OTAs. And then he quickly backtracked from that and said, not real bad, a normal one. So which is it? Was it a bad hamstring, or what's a normal hamstring pull? I think any hamstring pull isn't a good one. So way to kind of step all over your words there, Kyle. He says he's good now. He hit all his miles per hour. He's fine. We just haven't seen him the last 2 weeks. We're not going to throw a wideout out there in the first 3 days. We don't want him to pull it again until we see his conditioning and everything, which we should get in 3 days, and then he should be good. So they're saying that Ricky Pearsall is poised to miss the first 3 practices of training camp and likely will make his training camp debut this Sunday, July 27th. And then the Niners will likely be putting on the pads on Monday, July 28th. As I mentioned last week, that was kind of the target date I had in mind for the first time that the Niners will be putting on pads. Grant Cohn actually followed up and asked, was it a partial tear like a grade 2? And Kyle Shanahan said no. So if Kyle Shanahan's telling the truth, that's a very good thing, that it's not a grade 2 hamstring strain. It's not something overly bad, even though Kyle did say to begin his statement that it was a bad hamstring pull. So I don't really know what to believe. And, Niner fans who have been paying attention for some time know that you can't really trust Kyle Shanahan or the 49ers for that matter when it comes to divulging the true extent of injuries. See Christian McCaffrey last summer. But from what it appears, just taking Kyle Shanahan at his word, it sounds like Ricky Pearsall will be making his training camp debut this Sunday, so he doesn't stand to miss too much time from training camp, even though some people were telling you heading into training camp that it was just a procedural thing that Ricky Pearsall was put on the pup. And, it could be expected that he's out there on Wednesday, right? Some people were telling you that. I'm not going to say who, but some people were. And yet here we are, day 1 of training camp, and they're telling you he's going to miss the first 3 practices. So, just take everything with a grain of salt when it comes to injuries, whether it's good news or bad news. Take it all with a grain of salt, and let actions speak louder than words, whether we're referring to the 49ers, the front office, or the beat writers. So I'm just going to put that out there. The next question that was posed to the media, where do you think things stand with wide receiver Juwan Jennings, and what is kind of the plan to work things out? John Lynch said, Juwan reported took his physical yesterday. We anticipate, I won't speak for Juwan, but we had a good visit with him. Anticipate him being out there. You guys know our feelings on JJ. He embodies what, we think a Niners all about. Plays the right way, and we love him. And I think all that stuff, we're not going to get into the contract talks and all that. That takes care of itself. But, we love him, and he's here. So they didn't really tell you anything, aside from the fact that he did show up, which is encouraging. He did take his physical and pass his physical. Also good news. But when it comes to the contract, they're not really talking about it. They have nothing to say. Kind of status quo for how they go about their contract discussions. They don't divulge a lot of that stuff with the media, if ever. But there was a follow-up question, and it was, so is there dialogue, talk about a contract extension? And John Lynch gave probably the most what's the word? I can't think of what I'm trying to say, but John Lynch gave a very interesting answer when they asked him, is there dialogue? Is there contract talks? What's going on? John Lynch went on to say, we love him. He's here. Basically, like, I'm not answering that question. We're not getting into that. I'm not very happy about the fact that we're in these contract talks. Next question, move the hell on. That's what John Lynch was telling you right there when he said, we love him. He's here. He kind of chuckled when he said it. And if you guys didn't get the chance, go on the 49ers YouTube channel. That full press conference has been posted with audio now. So if you didn't get to see the live press conference earlier or didn't get to hear it when all the audio was muted, the press conference with audio is now posted on the 49ers YouTube channel. So check that out after we're done. Don't do it right now because we're talking about it. You don't need to go watch it right now. I'm telling you what was important. So I just wanted to pass that along in case anyone was interested. Then they went on to ask more wide receiver questions. What is the latest sense of wide receiver Brandon Ayuk, and when can he resume practicing, or when could he resume practicing? And also, any more information on wide receiver Demarcus Robinson and whether he'll be suspended to begin the season? John Lynch's answer was, yeah, that's a league matter, as with respect to Demarcus Robinson, and we'll let that play out. The league will handle that. We knew there was a possibility when we signed Demarcus, and we have accounted for that, so we'll see. That's a legal matter that's playing out with respect. Before I move on to the next part, so that tells you right there, the Niners still don't know. It's a legal matter. They're not going to speak on it. There hasn't been any discipline handed down. The Niners are in the dark just as much as you and I are regarding a potential suspension. There has been no news. Hopefully, the NFL gets around to that sooner rather than later. But in the meantime, he will be eligible to practice with the team during training camp, like I've mentioned, and he will be able to play during the preseason. So he'll be able to build that chemistry and that connection with Brock Purdy, at least in the short term, before he serves any potential suspension that is handed down to begin the year, if that happens to be the case. John Lynch went on to speak about Brandon Ayuk, and he says, with respect to BA, he did a lot to his knee, and I would tell you that he's in a really good place considering all that. Now, what does that mean in terms of a timeline and all that? We're continuing to assess and get information. He did a lot of his rehab away from here. And also, I think when you get these guys back, there's all kinds of objective measurements that you want to do. And so he'll be working on his rehab with our guys. And I think we're encouraged to see, or we're encouraged on where he's at, but not anywhere close to having a set in stone timeline. So obviously, look, it's the first day of camp. They're just getting in. We don't have any real indication one way or the other with a timeline for Brandon Ayuk. We're not going to get one, I don't think. And we'll see. I always thought that a week one return for Ayuk, as what was speculated, was kind of fool's gold, a little bit of wishful thinking. I think it's way too soon. I think the Niners are going to play it cautious, and I think you can anticipate that Brandon Ayuk is placed on the regular season PUP list, where he will be forced to miss the first 4 games at least, and then they will reevaluate it and go from there. But I do think Ayuk will be back sooner than later, the way that everyone has been referring to his rehab and how good he's coming along. But I think it stands to reason that he will miss at least the first 4 games when it all comes down to it. And of course, they had no real information for us today here on the first day of training camp. The next question, very, very important one. What is offensive guard Ben Bartch's injury, and how did it happen? This is something I was very, very curious about. There was no, indication of what exactly happened prior to today. John Lynch said he hurt himself working out away from here. He's one of those guys, not going to put a timeline, but relatively soon he should be coming back. So there you have it. It went on to be revealed that it was a quad injury that Ben Bartch sustained away from the facility while working out in between mandatory minicamp and now. But they expect him to be back sooner than later, so that's encouraging. We'll see how long he's out for, but if you take John Lynch at his word, it shouldn't be too long. Then they went on to ask Kyle Shanahan about Ben Bartch, and they said, how does Ben Bartch stack up as far as the left guard position? Has he kind of put himself at the top based on the offseason program? And Kyle Shanahan gave a very interesting answer. He said, no, but he's right there competing with all the guys, him and Nick Zakelj. We all know Spencer Burford can do that. He's done it before. We're starting him out, trying to work him at that swing tackle spot. We know that he can hop in at guard and play because he started there for us in 2023, along with John Feliciano, who's no longer with the team and retired. We had Bartch and Zakelj competing through OTAs, but like I'll say, since 2018, probably 2019, what is OTAs when it comes to O-linemen and stuff? We're actually going to go out there and do some more football, but he's in the competition. He's in the mix. Look, Ben Bartch, as long as he's healthy, I think is pretty easily going to be slid in there as the starter at left guard. They like what they saw from him last year. They signed him to a new contract and brought him back. And like Kyle Shanahan said, they have Spencer Burford competing for the swing tackle spot. He's not primarily trying to win a spot at guard. So Ben Bartch, as long as he's healthy, is going to get every crack to start at left guard. It just depends on how soon he gets back. And according to John Lynch, it shouldn't be that long. So that's encouraging. The next question, referring to running back Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams, kind of what is the workload plan? Have you mapped it out? What's going on there? What's the situation for those two veteran players who dealt with injuries in their own right in 2024? Kyle Shanahan's answer was, I mean, it's all on paper somewhere. It's too confusing for me to memorize, or I'll forget things that I can just read on paper. Basically, he just didn't want to say anything. He didn't want to give the media an answer about their plans for Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey during training camp, because that would just be divulging a little bit too much information about how healthy they are, exactly where they are. Uh, you know, if you're telling me Kyle Shanahan does not know off the top of his head what his plans are for his two most important players on offense outside of Brock Purdy, in left tackle Trent Williams and running back Christian McCaffrey, I got a used car to sell you. Like, come on. Kyle Shanahan knows. He knows the plan for those guys. He just didn't want to say. So, but they did go on to say that Christian McCaffrey is fully healthy, 100% go for training camp, which is very, very good news for the 29-year-old running back coming off a bilateral Achilles tendonitis and an MCL sprain, I believe it was, in 2024. They went on to ask, what are your realistic expectations for the defense starting out this year? Obviously, you want them to produce and play well. You've seen defensive coordinator Robert Saleh have an effect on them already in the offseason, but when you guys kind of huddle, what do you think are the realistic expectations for the defense early on in the season? Kyle Shanahan had this to say. Yeah, well, one, I think we've got a lot of good vets who have established themselves in this league. I can go over numbers, but there's not a lot of people in this league better than Fred Warner and better than Nick Bosa. I love what Diamador Lenore has done here the last few years and the vet that he's become. But yeah, there's a chance we have 6 new guys starting on defense. There's a chance we could have 8 rookie starters on defense potentially. And we'll see how it plays out. Anytime you say that, that's different. But that's a different team. It's a different side of the ball. And so it does take some time. That's why I'm so excited to get started with camp, so we can really start working on that. I thought those guys really had a good head start in OTAs. When you have a young defense like that, you think 6 out of our first 9 games are on the road. I know that'll be a huge challenge for them. Very, very good actual bit of information there. Let's see. And I think we have the capability with some of the veterans that we've had here, some of the new guys that we've added, some of these vets that we've brought in to create some competition with these new guys. As long as we keep getting better throughout the year, I think we have a chance to turn it into a real good defense. That was very interesting coming from Kyle, saying that he could see anywhere from 6 to 8 new starters on the defensive side of the ball, and with a good chunk of them figuring to possibly be rookies. I mean, and he did say 6 of the first 9 games are on the road. So these guys are going to get thrown into the fire, and that's going to be huge. It's the first, half of the season is really the make or break, because 6 of those first 9 games are on the road. They do have a very favorable home stretch late in the year, which is awesome. But the first half of the season, I know the schedule is on the softer side if you look on paper from 2024. But just given the fact that you're going to have so many new moving pieces on defense, so many rookies, there's going to be a learning curve. There's going to be challenges that arise the first half of the year, especially when 6 of the first 9 games are on the road. So that's kind of the storyline of the Niners season right there. How does the defense come along early in the season, the first half of the year? That's going to make or break everything, really. Kyle Shanahan made a very good point there when referring to that today. I scrolled down too far. Then they went on to ask about Jawan Jennings yet again. And they said, do you expect Jawan to be out there tomorrow? You're not expecting a hold-in situation? Has he formally requested a trade? John Lynch said, I saw the same tweets you guys saw, but I'll just stick to what I said. Jawan's here. We expect him to be out on the field. They did say the same thing about Brandon Ayuk last year. And of course, any player under contract, John Lynch is going to tell you, we expect them to be out on the field. Kind of common sense. But he's saying something without saying something there. He's saying, yeah, he's under contract. We expect him on the field, but he's also not telling you a whole lot. He's like, look, we don't know if he's going to be out there or not. We don't know if he's going to hold in or not. He's here. He's under contract, so hopefully he's out there. We'll see what happens. That's kind of what John Lynch, I think, was saying when he mentioned that there. And then Kyle Shanahan followed up with it and said he hasn't formally asked for a trade. Now, you can take that two ways. Either Juwan Jennings just hasn't asked for a trade, or when Kyle Shanahan says it that way, he hasn't formally asked for a trade. That doesn't mean the rumor that has been floated out there about Juwan Jennings wanting a contract extension or a trade isn't true, because Juwan Jennings can say, look, I want a new contract or for you guys to trade me. He didn't walk up to Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch and say, I need you to trade me right now. I'm formally requesting a trade. I want out. That's not what the rumor is. What is being speculated about is that Juwan Jennings said, give me a new contract or trade me. So he might not have formally requested a trade, but it doesn't mean he didn't tell the 49ers, you're going to need to trade me if you don't want to give me a new deal. Like there's a difference there. It doesn't mean the exact same thing. So Kyle Shanahan saying that doesn't really tell us anything one way or another. It doesn't give us a definitive answer there on the whole trade speculation, if you guys follow me. I still firmly believe that Juwan Jennings has told the 49ers to give him a new deal or trade him. I do. Kyle Shanahan did not clear that up, in my opinion. Next question, and this is also a very important one that I was wanting to get some kind of clarification on. What is your understanding of Deommodore Lenoir's legal situation right now? John Lynch said, I know that something occurred down there. We've talked with Demo. Of course, we prefer our players not get involved in those things, but again, it's a legal matter. It will work itself out, and we've got a lot of faith in Demo, who he is as a person, and what he stands for. So they're backing Demo. They're going to let the whole legal situation play out. He does have a court date in 2 days on July the 25th, or 3 days on July the 25th, which would be Friday? That's also the 49ers' third practice of the week before their off day on Saturday. And from what I heard, I don't think Demo even has to physically be down there in LA, although it wouldn't surprise me if he did miss practice that day for that court date. We'll see what happens. We'll hear a lot more on Friday if those charges get dropped or what goes on from there. But the Niners are just like us. They're waiting to hear about the legal process. They're waiting to hear if the NFL is going to come down with any sort of discipline. But we'll see. I'm not really of the opinion that anything major is going to happen. I think I think it'll all go away, and I think they'll be just fine. But we didn't get any clarification there, any new information that we didn't already know. Let me check in with the chat before we get moving along. I've been talking here for a minute, going through all kinds of the anecdotes from the 49ers press conference today with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. David Corona says, JD, I can't tell what that is. Is that a microphone? You need a microphone, David? Is that what that is? I can't tell. Tommy Huxley says, JD, the Lambs. JD said the Lambs are the best in the world. Where did I say that? Don't get banned. Don't get banned for saying things that I didn't say, especially about the Rams. I don't know what you're referring to there, my guy, but let's not do that. You know what? I think that is the fake Tommy Huxley. I've heard there's a fake Tommy Huxley going around, so that could potentially be that. But a wrench. David wants a wrench. Okay, gotcha. All right, let's get back to it. I got a few more questions and answers that we're going to get through, and then we can open it up for questions from you guys or any of your reactions from the 49ers press conference today from Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. Next question was regarding defensive lineman Yatir Gross-Matos and offensive lineman Andre Dillard. Two of those guys that are on the pup list, uh, are they expected back sooner than later? Like what's going on there? Kyle Shanahan had this to say. I think it's similar to Ricky because they've been away, and we want to put them out there right now with how they check, but we're going to be safe. Evaluate them for these 3 days with both of our Dustins, vice president, which is their strength coach Dustin Perry and their athletic trainer Dustin Little. Then we'll have a day off, and we'll decide if we want to put them on the next block. So Yatir Gross-Matos, Andre Dillard are both going to be held out of the first 3 practices of the week. They will revisit things this weekend before ultimately deciding whether or not to put them out there on Sunday to begin their stretch of training camp. Next question, next topic was one that I had my eye on this whole time. I had this circled for the press conference. Like I need to hear about this one. They asked about Malik Mustafa, who posted a picture on Instagram today of him at the 49ers facility in pads, like he's ready to go for training camp. Now, I'm sure it was not a current picture. It was something he posted from last year, but Malik was saying, look, I'm here. I want to put these pads on. I'm ready to go to work. That's what that Instagram post was all about. And they asked John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan about that. And they asked, is his rehab going faster than maybe you would have expected? Kyle Shanahan had this to say. His recovery and how he is as good as it could be. Just the way he works, the way everything checks. It's amazing, but it's still an ACL. So you've got to give it time. So the Niners are exercising a ton of caution with Malik Mustafa as expected. But like I've been telling you guys, don't be shocked if he's out there week 1. I just have a sneaking suspicion he'll be out there week 1. I really, really do. But we'll see. We'll see. John Lynch went on to say, I think to add to that, it's a revision. It's one that he had previously hurt, which, yes, it's true. The ACL surgery that he had in January was to the same knee that he had injured in college previously. So the Niners are going to obviously want to be even more cautious than they normally would because they want to make sure that it sticks this time and that he's good to go. John Lynch went on to say, I think with that, the time element, I think Malik is going to outperform every time because he's a special athlete and then he's a special human being who's going to do everything and more. But I think especially with the revision, just the time element that the doctors want to see, they want to see if he gets out there. Hold on. The way these guys speak, sometimes it just doesn't translate with a transcription or a transcript very well. I'll read this word for word. But I think especially with the revision, just the time element, the doctors want to see you get to that. He wants to be out there today, believes he could be, but we have to hold him back. So long story short, they want to see how he's doing. Malik wants to be out there on the field. The Niners are going to exercise caution and really take this thing slowly, which I think is smart. I do. But I wouldn't be shocked if he's out there week 1. Kyle Shanahan said, we don't always want to give you guys timetables because timetables change all the time, and then you'll hold me accountable 6 months later. But when you look into all the 3 of our ACL guys, whether it's quarterback Curtis Rourke, Malik Mustafa, or Brandon Ayuk, they're all kind of in the same boat of the time to come back, which isn't going to be training camp. So Kyle Shanahan's telling you right there, do not expect Brandon Ayuk or Malik Mustafa to be back during training camp. But training camp ends before the start of the regular season. So he's kind of, I think, toying with his words there. I think he's telling you, like, yeah, these guys aren't going to be back anytime soon, but he's not telling you whether or not they'll be ready week 1. He's not really telling you everything with that statement. Shanahan went on to say, I mean, it could be, but that would be very surprising. But it'd be sometime in the season, hopefully the first half, and that's what we're hoping. And they're all 3 kind of in the same area, even though they all did it at different times, have different situations, but they're all about the same health time. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Just following the whole Malik Mustafa situation all offseason, I think there is a very good chance that he's ready week 1. I think there's a very good chance they need him to be ready week 1. Unless Jair Brown and Jason Pinnock can go out there and really solidify some spots and play well and make the 49ers feel good about those positions heading into week 1. Maybe if they see Pinnock and Jair Brown play their tails off in training camp in the preseason, they'll be able to sit Malik Mustafa out for the first 4 games as they put him on the physically unable to perform list at the start of the regular season, and give Malik just that little bit of extra time that he's going to need to make sure that he's right. Like he's totally ready to go. No concerns, no worries. Like once he gets out there, he puts the pedal to the metal and he's good to go. So I think it's going to a lot of it's going to depend on how good do the replacements perform in the meantime with Malik Mustafa still rehabbing his injury. If those guys go out there and they're playing well, I think it gives the 49ers the ability to sit Malik Mustafa just that little bit of extra time. But I'll say it again. I have a sneaking suspicion he'll be out there week 1. So if it happens, I will not be shocked. The next question that they asked, when you may have to rely on a number of rookies, especially defensively, like you mentioned, how do you measure their readiness and maybe give them some grace as they develop and get familiar with the system and get up to speed on that? Kyle Shanahan went on to say, the same way you always do. You go back to 2019 and we're coming off a 4-12 season and the second pick in the draft. And that year we started Deebo Samuel when he was a rookie. We started Nick Bosa. He was a rookie. Dre Greenlaw started. He was a rookie. You do that all the time, or you do it all the same way you've done it your whole career. There might be more than one at certain spots, which I think brings more light into it. But we've all been around long enough to know that, yeah, there's some growing pains with rookies, but there's growing pains with everyone. There's the vets have ups and downs too, and you do that with everyone. You've got to understand, though rookies are going to figure it out right away. You can't just bench them as soon as they make a mistake early. That does take reps. No matter what you do, you need a lot of reps to get good at anything, and these guys are going to need those reps. They haven't had them. They don't get them in the offseason. They get them through playing football, and that's why you hope as they get these reps, they're not as catastrophic because we're all judged on wins and losses. But there's some ebbs and flows, and if they're made of the right stuff, you can overcome mistakes, and they eventually fix them. So it sounds like Kyle Shanahan is open to having a lot of rookies start this year. I think that they know with the soft schedule that if they're going to start a ton of rookies and get them a lot of experience, which will obviously help this team in the long term beyond 2025, I think the best way to do it is to let them get out there now. You have a soft schedule. You can still contend. You can still win, even with a bunch of rookies. You have a lot of vets on this team who can help bring them along. You do have a great coaching staff with Robert Saleh and Gus Bradley on the defensive side of the ball to help coach these guys up. So, you may take some lumps, but in the long run, it's going to be a good thing. And I think Kyle Shanahan knows that. And I think this is going to be the first time in a long time that you see a ton of younger guys starting on defense for this team. They went on to say, or ask Kyle, are you committed to taking those lumps potentially and letting the rookies learn on the job early in the season, even if it costs you a game or two? And Kyle went on to say, yeah. Is there a better vet behind him? You're going to play the best player, whether he is young or not. We're in the situation where we have a lot of opportunities for young guys to be our best players. So basically he's saying, yeah, there's not a lot of good vets behind these rookies. The rookies are probably going to play. That's kind of what I took away from that. We haven't had that in a while, probably since 2019, he went on to say. And there's room for young players to make it here. And I think we've got the young players to do that. But in any situation, if someone's struggling, we're going to put our best team out there possible. We have a chance for these young guys to really earn that. But if there's someone better behind them, we are judged by wins and losses. You're going to do what it takes. You're going to do what it takes to win that game and then try to get a guy ready for the next week. But you're always going to put the best guys out there. If I'm taking anything away from that, I think Kyle knows that he's going to have a lot of rookies out there. He's going to have rookies on that defensive line. He may have a rookie next to Fred Warner, but we'll get to that in a minute. He may have a rookie, nickel corner in Upton Stout. We'll see what happens. But I think Kyle Shanahan knows what's the situation, just like we do, knows that this team is extremely young. They're going to take some lumps, but in the long run, getting these guys a ton of playing time with a soft schedule I think is the best course of action for this team moving forward. I really do. I want to see a lot of these young guys play this year, and I feel like it's going to be the first time that Kyle Shanahan really embraces playing all these rookies, even though if he had it his way, they would have spent a lot more money in free agency and brought in a lot of veteran players or retained some of the guys that they let walk out of the building. But we all know about the financial constraints that Jed York has put this team under this offseason. So they have to work with what they've got. But I think Kyle knows it's in their best interest to get a lot of these young guys a ton of experience early on. And I think that's what we're going to see. I do. So, in addition to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, we did hear from Fred Warner and Brock Purdy. They didn't say a whole lot. There was a couple of things that they said that I'll get to here momentarily, but I want to see how you guys are reacting to what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch had to say today during their press conference. Let me scroll through the chat and see if you guys have anything specific that you mentioned. 805 Blackbeard said, did Saleh speak today? He did not. Let me, you know what? While we're here, let me go ahead and I'll tell you when Saleh is set to speak to the media. I'm pulling up their schedule right now for all the press conferences. Let me take a look here. Saleh is scheduled to speak to the media on Thursday after practice. Kyle Shanahan will be speaking to the media tomorrow after day one, but Robert Saleh will be speaking to the media on Thursday. So that'll be good. That'll be good to hear how Robert Saleh is feeling early on here in training camp. Let me see if anything else stands out to me from you guys in the chat. If you guys had any questions or comments. Okay, I think we're good. Wi-Fi says they're reluctant to play the rookies on the defensive side. It seems Shanahan has a problem with playing rookies. I mean, I just read you the transcript of the press conference today. I think Kyle knows he's going to have to play some rookies. I think he's accepted that. I would agree with that statement in the past that Kyle Shanahan has been reluctant to play some rookies, but he did give some examples. I mean, look at 2019. They had Debo starting games, Dre Greenlaw starting games. They've had Dominic Pooney as a rookie last year starting on the offensive line. Is he reluctant to play rookies? I mean, yeah, if he had his choice, he would have a proven veteran player, obviously. Any coach would. Anybody would. But the way Kyle Shanahan was speaking today, I mean, I think he knows the writing's on the wall. They're going to be playing a lot of rookies this year on the defensive side of the ball. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. I'm excited. I know you guys are too. Big Brick 84 says, I honestly think Kyle would rather mold rookies than fight with veterans. Rookies are about to learn fast, trial by fire. Saleh will get his rookies in line fast. I agree with the second half of that statement that Saleh is going to help these rookies come along a lot faster than they otherwise would. But the first half of your statement that Kyle, let me read that again word for word. I honestly think Kyle would rather mold rookies than fight with veterans. I disagree with that, and I have one name that backs that up: Devondre Campbell. I mean, they could have played a young guy in D Winners last year. They had every opportunity to do so. They kept trotting Devondre Campbell out there, even though he was a problem in the locker room all season long, not just during the game where he walked out on the team. So I would disagree there. But I think Kyle knows that some of his best bets this year are going to be rookies. That's just how the roster is constructed. And I think when you bring in Robert Saleh, there has to be an element of trust there that Saleh can get the job done even with a ton of rookies. And you still have a lot of veteran players on this team who have been there and done it and can help these guys along. I mean, Fred Warner for one, obviously Nick Bosa. Bryce Huff is a player in this league who's made plays. Let's see, who else am I missing? I mean, Diamador Lenore obviously is becoming a leader on this defense. Ronaldo Green going into his second year expected to make a big jump. Malik Mustafa, same deal. So will there be some lumps this year? Yes. But I think in the long run, I think it's best for all parties involved to get some rookies out there. I mean, I don't know if I want all rookies week one. I don't know if I want Alfred Collins, CJ West, and Mykel Williams all starting on the defensive line week one up in Seattle. But I think at some point this year, like, you have to embrace the youth movement because that's the best thing for this team moving forward. And I think with the soft schedule, it gives you the ability to play these young guys maybe a little more or a little faster than you ordinarily would. I mean, if they were playing against some of the top tier teams in the league, you might want to lean on a veteran player who's been there and done that before. But with the softer schedule, I think that it's not a bad thing to play some of these young guys more than Kyle Shanahan or Robert Saleh ordinarily would. I really don't. I see my guy Fazil chiming in. What up, Fazil? Thank you for tuning in, man. We've just been going through the press conference today down at 49 in Santa Clara. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch spoke to the media. I went through their transcript. And I do have a little bit more to get to as far as interviews go. Like I mentioned, linebacker Fred Warner spoke to the media, as well as quarterback Brock Purdy. And both of those guys gave a ton of cookie cutter answers, not a lot of groundbreaking stuff there, but they each did give a little bit that I want to get into. One brief little mention from both of those guys, each of those guys. So let's get into that. Let's get into that. So Fred Warner spoke to the media, and my biggest takeaway out of everything that Fred Warner said today was that he expects fellow linebacker D. Winters to take the next step in his development this year. And if Fred Warner is kind of giving you his stamp of approval, if Fred Warner is going out there publicly in the media and saying, I expect D. Winters to make a jump, like, I think that's kind of telling you what to expect at linebacker next to Fred Warner. I don't think it's going to be Nick Martin starting the year next to Fred. I really don't, and barring injury, of course. I think it's going to be D. Winters. I think this team is going to give D. Winters every shot to go out and show it in training camp, go out and show it in the preseason, earn the spot. But I think Fred Warner speaking on it today, saying that he expects D. Winters to go out there and really take that next step, I think that's encouraging, and I also think it's a sign of things to come. I think you're going to see D. Winters out there week 1 when the Niners go up to Seattle to play the Seahawks. That's just what my biggest takeaway from what Fred Warner had to say to the media today. And then Brock Purdy, he spoke to the media today. They asked him all kinds of questions about how was your off season? You got the big contract. Does it change anything? Like, all the normal stuff, everything that you would have expected the media to ask Brock Purdy. And he gave his normal answers and a lot of team friendly stuff, a lot of cookie cutter stuff, typical Brock Purdy speak. But he did give one answer to a question that really impressed me. And it showed a little bit of testicular fortitude from Brock Purdy. It showed a little bit of balls from Brock, if I'm being real. They asked him about wide receiver Jawan Jennings. And they said, what do you think about what's going on with Jawan and his contract? And how important is it to get that taken care of so he can be on the field with you guys? Now, a lot of quarterbacks in his position, especially guys with kind of Brock Purdy's MO, would probably say something like, we gotta go out there and work with the guys that are here and out there on the field. I mean, I can't control that. It's beyond my control, yada, yada, yada. The typical, public, what's the word? The typical politically correct sort of things that quarterbacks would go on to say in that situation. But Brock had a really good answer. And I was very happy to hear Brock respond the way that he did. He said, I mean, it's extremely important. Obviously, we love JJ and what he brings to our team and to myself as the quarterback. Obviously, we've had so much success together. And anytime you see something like this is going on as a player, it's like, man, let's figure out something so we can get back out on the field and continue to do what we've done. So obviously, I hope everything gets handled and everything. I hope everything gets handled and everything, but would love my guy to be out there on the field with me. So big props to Brock there. He kind of spoke up a little bit. He kind of said, hey, like, let's get this done. Jawan's important. Jawan's my guy. Like, what are we doing? Like, stop messing around. Get Jawan on the field. Like, he didn't really use those words, but him speaking up on behalf of Jawan there, like saying, let's get this deal done, that's good. Good on you, Brock. I like hearing that from Brock. And like I mentioned yesterday, I want to hear Brock take more ownership of this team, take more leadership on this team, speak up a little bit more, speak his mind, be the vocal guy that every quarterback should be. And hearing him talk about Jawan Jennings' contract situation today was very encouraging. That's a very promising start for me for hearing or for seeing Brock continue to mature into the leader that his contract's going to demand him to be. And I know the Niners heard it. I know the Niners aren't scoffing at what Brock Purdy had to say about Jawan Jennings. Like they paid attention. They're like, okay, Brock, we got you. We know that Jawan's your guy and you want him in there. They absolutely heard what Brock had to say today about Jawan. And he didn't say anything like groundbreaking or earth-shattering or divisive or anything like that, but he did say something. And a lot of quarterbacks in that position wouldn't have said what Brock said. So good on you, Brock. Much appreciated from Brock Purdy. Big Brick 84 says Brock is becoming the leader that he needs to be. That's what I'm saying. Hearing him talk about Jawan Jennings that way in that contract situation, when a lot of players won't even comment on another guy's contract. That's status quo. Most players say, that's his deal. I'm not going to talk about another man's money, yada, yada, yada. Brock Purdy was like, look, we need to get this done with Jawan. I need Jawan back out on the field. So good on you, Brock. Good job speaking up on behalf of your guy and on behalf of this team. They need to get Jawan back on the field. Everybody knows it. And for Brock to speak up and say something, I like it. I like it a lot from Brock Purdy. Fazil said, I like how Kyle and Jawan Jennings never requested a trade, and I think he gets paid. Good news on Ricky Pearsall, only out a few days. Yeah, we've gone through all that stuff. No formal trade request, but it doesn't mean that Jawan didn't tell him, look, pay me or trade me. Like that's not necessarily like a formal trade request. That's just saying, pay me my money that I want, Big Brick 84 says veteran journeymen have egos and learn bad habits. Rookies are raw and starting with a clean slate. Yeah. And that's another good thing. Like, I don't think a lot of people, I'm sure people remember this and know this, but think about it. Like, Robert Saleh was here in 2017 when they created this whole culture, the all gas, no brakes, the wide 9 defense, the Seattle cover 3. All the foundational elements of this defense were started with Robert Saleh here. And Robert Saleh was the guy who drafted Dre Greenlaw. So if Nick Martin happens to be the starter week 1, I'm going to roll with whatever Robert Saleh decides. I said it during the pre-draft process. Whatever linebacker that they draft, I'm on board because I trust Robert Saleh's judgment. And Robert Saleh is building this defense back up in his image. I went through it a few weeks ago regarding the similarities between the personnel on this year's defense compared to 2019. There's a lot of similarities there. So the fact that they are going to be starting a ton of young guys, a ton of rookies on this defense, might there be some lumps? Might it cost you a game? Maybe, but in the long run, it's a great place to really start rebuilding this team under the image of Robert Saleh and restarting kind of what they built beginning in 2017. Like you could be stepping into another era like that. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see a lot of young guys play this year. I am. Typically, I'd be a little more reserved, but I'm excited to see it because I know long-term what it's going to mean for this team. 805 Blackbeard says, JD, who has the most to prove this season? I've let me think. That's a good question. I haven't necessarily answered it worded that way. I've given you my thoughts on who needs to have a good training camp, who has the most on the line, but who has the most to prove this year? If I had to put a name on it, most to prove, that's a good question. I'm gonna go with the obvious answer. It's gonna be Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy has the most to prove. Everyone has said all along that Brock Purdy has only looked good because of the Avengers, because of Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Kyle Shanahan. Brock Purdy's only looked good because of everyone around him. And then last year, with all the injuries and the turmoil, Brock Purdy went on a bit of a downslide. So after getting his huge contract this offseason and moving ahead up the rungs of leadership on this team because let's face it, he is the leader of this team now. He has to be. It is his offense. It is his baby. It is his, car to drive. Brock Purdy has the most to prove. How is he going to bounce back this year? Is he going to be able to finish the season for only the second time in his fourth season in the NFL? How is he going to be able to play without Deebo Samuel for the first time in his career? How is he going to be able to play without Brandon Ayuk until he returns? How is he going to be able to play with a lot of young guys on this team? I think Brock Purdy has the most to prove. And I know that's kind of maybe an easy answer, but I think it's the truth. I think Brock Purdy has a ton to prove. Is he going to be worth that money that they invested in him? Is he going to live up to that contract? I mean, I think Brock Purdy has the most to prove. I do, because you've seen Brock Purdy as a rookie come in and kind of shock the world. Then the following year, you see Brock Purdy as an MVP candidate. People wondering, is that fool's gold? Is that fool's gold? Was it all smoke and mirrors? 2024 comes around. The whole team just kind of doesn't have that right kind of feel the entire year. Brock's play goes down. He's kind of forcing things too much. So who is Brock Purdy really? I don't think we fully know exactly who Brock Purdy is. And this year, we're going to find out, because we're going to know, is he the kind of leader that you need at the quarterback position with so much change on this team, with all the money that they've invested in him now? Is Brock Purdy truly the guy to lead this team? And I think this season's going to go a long way in proving that. So that's all, just I would say like, it's Brock. Brock has the most to prove this year. I really feel that way. I really, really feel that way. Let me see if you guys are saying anything else here in the chat. Papa J says Jair Brown has the most to prove this year. I think he has a lot on the line. I think his 49ers career is certainly on the line. Like it's a make or break year for Jair Brown. Absolutely. Filthy Casual checking in says Brock has the most to prove that he's worth his contract. Bingo. I mean, the money would tell you that he's got a lot to prove. Bay Area Oasis fan says, cool hat, man. Fanatics, I got the same hat. I get all my hats from a ton of different sites. Lids, 49er Shop, Fanatics, New Era, the New Era website. I found some on eBay, Hat Club, Hatland.com. I mean, there's tons of hat sites. I don't want to give them all away, but and that funny you mentioned that, because I'm going to be actually doing a video here soon on my 49er hat collection. I will go to say, out of everyone, at least here on YouTube, I have the best 49er hat collection. I can tell you that unequivocally. I'll say it with my whole chest. There is nobody else, at least on YouTube, that you will find with a better 49er hat collection than me. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. I have a tote over here to the side with all my 49er hats in it. And I mean, there's at least 30 of them in there. Like I have a ton of 49ers hats, and you guys see it a lot. I mean, I wear different hats in a lot of my videos. So yeah, I appreciate the compliment on my hat. I would say I have the best 49er hat collection, at least here on YouTube. My personal favorite's actually right here, and I'll show it to you guys. This one here with the saloon font 49ers on the front. My favorite part of this hat, the candlestick patch right here on the side. I've worn it in a couple videos, but I have issues with it using the green screen because you have a green underbill. You guys see how it's just reflecting my background image? But this is probably my favorite hat in my entire 49er hat collection. The saloon font 49ers old school logo with the Candlestick Park farewell season patch. This is probably my favorite hat I've ever had, and I have two of them. I got two of them just in case I messed one up. So, yeah, just wanted to share that with you guys. Good good comment there from Bay Area Oasis fan. Fazil says, love the hat. Thank you. Appreciate it. Papa J says, Brock has already proved himself, or else he wouldn't have gotten the contract that he has, in my opinion. That's the thing, though. you're always proving yourself in the NFL. It's a year-to-year league, man. Like, nothing's guaranteed. If you're trying to be the best player that you can be, whether you got the contract or not, whether you got the bag or not, you have to go out and prove yourself every year because these teams can move off of you like that. And really, yeah, he got the huge deal that $253 million, I believe it was, or somewhere around there, 267, whatever the final number was on the contract. That's a lot of it's funny money. He's not going to see the entire contract. He's just not. That's how these contracts work. So his contract isn't worth the huge number that you see on the surface, and he has to go out there and earn all these dollars, man. Like, teams can get out from these contracts sooner than later now in the NFL. And Brock's going to go out there and show that he's worth every penny. He's going to have to keep showing that he's worth that contract. I don't care that he got the new contract. That doesn't mean that he's earned it already. Like, they had to pay him. What else were the 49ers going to do? Like, you had to pay Brock. And he has to go out there and earn it, or they're going to move on and find another guy. See Trey Lance. They moved off of Trey Lance very quickly with no regard for the salary cap and how it impacted the team, So you got to go out there and earn it every year, man. You really do. Let me see what else you guys are saying here in the chat. Bay Area Oasis fan says, Brock still has a lot to prove to us and to his haters that he's a top-tier quarterback. I believe that he is, but I want him to show the rest of the doubters and haters that he is the real deal. That's the thing. If Brock bounces back this year and leads this team to the playoffs with a ton of young players, a ton of rookies on this team, what are people going to say about Brock then? Like, if he takes that next step as a passer, if he takes that next step as a leader and proves without a shadow of a doubt that he is, a top 10 quarterback in this league, like, you're not going to be able to say anything about Brock after this year. But that's the thing. If he plays great, no one's going to have anything to say about Brock anymore because he doesn't have the adventures on offense anymore. But if he plays poorly, then you can make the statement that, look, Brock's not who we thought he was. I think this is the biggest year of Brock's career in terms of, like, the crossroads that he's at in his career. Yes, I know he got the new contract and he's not going anywhere in the short term, but this is a huge year for Brock Purdy, and how he plays will determine ultimately, I think, how he is perceived for the rest of his career. So that's just my thoughts on that one. Big Brick 84 says, speaking of hats, JD, saw your video last night about the leaked rival uni hats. I do like the look of the logo. Would probably look pretty good on the sides of the helmets too. I mean, I would imagine that logo is going to be on the side of the helmet. Again, if you guys are just tuning in, I did post a video last night over what I believe to be a leak of the 49ers rivalry uniform logo on a New Era hat. So go onto the channel as soon as this live stream is done and check out the video that I posted last night. There's a picture of the 49ers new logo and a Rams new logo on some New Era hats that leaked online yesterday. So check that out when you get a chance. Very interesting stuff as we all await the news of the new rivalry uniforms. Let me keep scrolling through the chat and get caught up here. Papa J says, you're serious when you have a tote. Yeah, I mean, I have a huge tote of 49er hats over here. Like, and that's not even all my hats. That's just all my New Era hats. And I have like another little dresser with a bunch of older hats in it. In my closet, I have all my old Reebok hats from back in the day. A lot of those got ruined from going to games and wearing them nonstop. I'm way better with my hats now. But I have a million 49er hats. Like, I love my 49er hats, man. I wear a Niner hat literally every single day. So maybe I'll post a video here soon, but I was going to post it over on the Patreon, and that's a good segue. If you like the content, you like what we're doing here on Keeping the Faith, Monday through Friday, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, and all the other stuff that we post and everything else that we've done this off season, and you want to help support the channel heading into training camp and the regular season, check out the Patreon. All the details are down below in the ticker and the description box. Patreon.com/keepingthefaith. Sign up and become a member today, and you'll get access to behind the scenes stuff, bonus videos such as my 49er hat collection, which I will be showing soon, and I have some other bonus videos that I've posted as well. And we also do monthly giveaways. I did give away one of these Keeping the Faith hats a couple of months ago over on the Patreon, and it could have been you. You could have won that hat if you were a member over on the Patreon. So check out the Patreon, patreon.com/keeping the faith. And there's going to be plenty more bonus content as we get going here into the regular season. So check that out for sure. Let's see. Let's see what else we got. Papa J again. I think the Avengers is overplayed. Every team that makes it to the Super Bowl has an Avenger team. That is not true. That is completely untrue, Papa J. I mean, off the top of my head, I'm trying to think of, the Chiefs have gone to the Super Bowl without any notable wide receivers. All they had on offense really was Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Yes, they had a good defense, but in terms of offensive skill guys, Patrick Mahomes has won Super Bowls with a lackluster supporting cast on offense. He has. I'm trying to think who else. The Baltimore Ravens have won Super Bowls with a lackluster offense. Maybe you can say Avengers on defense for certain teams, but in terms of offense, there have been teams that have won Super Bowls without, an all-star Pro Bowl supporting cast of players like the 49ers have had the last several years. Let me think who else. Anybody off the top of my head? Trying to remember who's all won Super Bowls as of late. There's been teams. I'm sure you guys can come up with names faster than me right here on the spot, but you don't have to have a Pro Bowl roster on offense to win a Super Bowl. You just don't. As long as you have a very good defense, and you have to have elements. Like you have to have a great quarterback. You have to have, if you don't have necessarily a great quarterback, you have to have a very good run game and a very good defense. But I want to see Brock take that next step this year without the Avengers, without the NFC Pro Bowl roster on offense. Brock has to live up to that contract, and I want to see him again take that next step this year. Shut everybody up. Shut me up. Shut up the haters. Shut up the critics. Shut up the doubters. This is Brock's year to do it. And if this 49er team can win the NFC West, make a playoff run, then people won't be able to say anything about Brock Purdy anymore. And Brock knows that. And Brock's a fiery, competitive guy. So he's going to go into every game with that attitude look, I'm going to shut all these dudes up. And I'm excited for it. I think Brock's got it in him. I really do. So with that, guys, I appreciate all of you for tuning in today. I think we're going to go ahead and call it there. We've been live for over an hour, and I will be live tomorrow, same time, 4:30 Pacific time, reacting to the first official practice of 49ers training camp. And I'm looking forward to it, man. Football is back. We're going to have tweets tomorrow from the beat writers about what's going on in practice. Football's back. It's amazing. But I appreciate all you guys for tuning in today. Thanks again for checking out the channel, as always. And I will see you all tomorrow because it's time to go to camp, baby. Let's go.